Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday, happy day after Monday Night Raw. This is the Duke, aka Highlight of the Night. Special delight when I walk on the mic, everyone screams, "That's right!" We are here live, and just wanted to give my thoughts on Monday Night Raw last night. As you all know, it was a taped Raw, as opposed to a live show, which is very interesting. Originated out of the UK. And, there's something about these tape shows that are really a problem. Uh, I don't know if it's jet lag or what have you, but the talent does seem to take their foot off the gas, so to speak. And also the storylines don't necessarily seem connected. So last night, though, we did have the return of Shane McMahon. Very strange. As you know, he battled The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And the stipulation of that match was if Shane McMahon won, he would control Raw. But if he lost to The Undertaker in that Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania, Shane would essentially go away. Well, he did lose the match, but yet he's still back. I don't get it. And we haven't seen the Authority. We haven't seen Vince McMahon at all. It's just Shane running Raw. You would think he beat The Undertaker. Strange. Anyway, he opened the show, which, okay, whatever you say. Then a bunch of other guys came out, including Chris Jericho and Sami Zayn, and that turned into a match between the two of them. I was very excited about that. As you know, Chris Jericho is a future Hall of Famer. He was the first undisputed World Heavyweight Champion, which is fantastic. And going up against a guy, Sami Zayn, who was an indie legend, since his time in the WWE, he's really set the world on fire. Sami's a very popular and marketable character. So the match was a good back and forth. The finish saw Jericho pick up the win. I understand that they're building up Jericho. They're putting him in a position where whomever he's going to feud with next, when they beat him, it's going to matter. At the same time, I'm not too thrilled with Sami Zayn losing matches. This is a guy who is getting some of the strongest pops of the night, and you really want to position him in a manner where you're going to put a belt on him soon. And especially considering the fact that he has a feud going on with Kevin Owens, which this feud dates back to their days in Ring of Honor and some of the other independent scenes. I just don't get it. And speaking of Owens, this poor guy, what is going on? It's like the company has just completely dropped the ball as far as figuring out what to do with the guy. I mean, when you think about a year ago, he was in one of the strongest feuds of the year with John Cena, and now he's just kind of floating around somewhere, which unfortunately is the case for a lot of talent lately. Hopefully there'll be some type of brand split where it'll put talent in a situation where they can thrive more, because you do have a SmackDown show that is really underutilized. And if you went back with a brand split, gave them their own championship, now suddenly you're making people relevant once again. But getting back to the show, so we transitioned from the Jericho-Sami Zayn match. Next we had Enzo and Big Cass going up against the Dudley Boyz, which, this feud makes sense. You have the veterans in the Dudley Boyz. They've been brought back into the WWE fold, and the main idea here is to get younger talent over. Work with them in the ring, put them in a position where they can succeed, and more importantly, since the Dudleys are the most decorated tag team in the history of the WWE, anyone that gets a victory over them, it's going to give them a little bit of shine. So, and how about that Enzo Amore? I mean, this guy, you talk about charisma. Oh my goodness. When this guy comes out, and he's all pumped up and he's running around and he has his colorful outfits on, the crowd is really into it, which is fantastic. Big Cass playing more of the straight man. He's just a big, tough, doesn't say a lot of words, but kicks a lot of butt. The combination of the two is a great combination. And the Dudley Boyz, you know who they are. They're the legends. So this match saw Enzo and Cass go over on the Dudleys clean, which was great. I'm sure this isn't the last time we'll see these two tag teams face off against each other. I will say, though, that I'd love to see more of an edge from the Dudleys. feel like the Dudley Boyz they're a smaller version of what they used to be. You know, here we have a team that was so white hot with heat back in the ECW days that fans would try to jump the guardrails to beat them up. And now the Dudleys are just kind of doing a part-time heel gimmick thing. I wish they would really do something dastardly and disgusting to really get the crowd against them, which would mean even more when a babyface tag team like an Enzo or Cass goes over on them. But we'll see. You know, they nonetheless, when they wrestle, they do put on a great show, so you can't really argue with that. Next up on the card, we had Roman Reigns, the World Heavyweight Champion, come out, and he was attacked by Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, aka, you know, formerly members of the Bullet Club back in New Japan Pro Wrestling. How awesome is that? You know, we have a Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles match coming up the next pay-per-view, so it's important that we establish some type of storyline, some type of background in order to boost up this feud with AJ, really the king of promotions outside of the WWE, against Roman Reigns, the aka Chosen One. So this was great that Gallows and Anderson attacked him. They gave him a good beat down. AJ later on pretended like he didn't know they were going to come out and do what they did, which was just hilarious. Come on, AJ. Come on, AJ. You knew what they were going to do. But nonetheless, it was a great spot. I like what WWE is doing with Gallows and Anderson thus far. Have them come in, have them bust some people up. It looks like they're still trying to figure out a name for these guys, which is fine. I'm sure they'll come out with something and it'll be marketable. These guys are going to sell a lot of merchandise. They're huge, especially internationally, and with the tour coming up in Japan, it'll be wonderful if you can put them on, have them do something. You know, you'll sell a bunch of tickets. It'll be a good gate for them. Next up, we had a match between Baron Corbin and Fandango, which was just a squash. Fandango was still on the roster, folks. They can't figure out a darn thing to do with this guy, and for the life of me, I don't understand it. He's a decent talent in the ring. He looks great. From all that we see, he seems like a company guy. I wouldn't take the Fandango gimmick off of him, but you gotta put him in a position where he can succeed. Now, if this means you gotta bust him back down to NXT, so be it. But you gotta help this guy out, because he's a decent talent, and it's a shame to see the way he's being utilized. And Baron Corbin, I got no arguments with this. His entrance is kind of weak. We'll say that. They do need to come up with some kind of pyro or something for this guy. Get a little more creative with the entrance. I know a lot of people complained about that. But outside of that, his stuff in the ring is okay. And I think as a big man, he's going to continue to do his thing. I would love to see him paired up with a couple of guys to make himself a leader of a crew. I think that would be great. And I'm sure that's in the cards for him at some point soon, because he really needs some followers, somebody who can help legitimize him even more, and he can legitimize them. You know, folks like, who knows, it could be, I would have said it would have been the Ascension, but as you know, one of the members of the Ascension got into a wellness policy violation. It's the second violation since being with the company, and he's currently serving a suspension, unfortunately. But that would have been a great group to pair up with Baron Corbin, especially considering he calls himself Destroyer of Worlds. So they really could have ran with that gimmick. Nonetheless, though, you know, squash match. Corbin goes over on Fandango, and he keeps trugging along. The next match we had, which was really cool, New Day and Cesaro versus The Miz and League of Nations. This was everything you thought it would be. Entertaining. Cesaro doing a little dancing, wearing a Booty-O shirt, which is pretty cool. The Miz is doing some of his best work. I really feel this. I know that he and Chris Jericho are very close friends. Jericho is also doing some of his best work in years. And I know that Miz models a lot of what he does after Jericho. So having Jericho back around clearly is rubbing off on him strong, because I tell you, when my hand goes up, your mouth goes shut. That gimmick right there is hilarious. The whole movie star thing, and now he brought his gorgeous, talented wife Maurice. She's back in the WWE. And she's walking around like his assistant and bossing people around. She's the director. Excuse me. She's the director. It's just a really cool gimmick. So I like to see them. League of Nations is a complete waste. I just don't understand it. I think a guy like Alberto Del Rio, he's getting babyface pops. At some point, we're going to have to split him off and put him back in a program where he can thrive, because, I mean, the guy's in tip-top shape. He's all tanned up, handsome, can work his tail off in the ring. I mean, he really, really is a workhorse and has high-quality stuff in the ring. He's being held back in this League of Nations nonsense. And the same goes for Rusev. I mean, Rusev went from a monster to a guy who's just one of 3 guys. That's useless. And Sheamus, I have nothing to say to him. He's a transitional piece. It's nice to have him around. I get it. But he doesn't do anything for the other 2 guys. So what's the point? Next up, we had a hodgepodge match. It was the ladies. We had Natalya, the Boss, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Paige. They went up against Charlotte, the women's heavyweight champion, Naomi, Tamina, and Summer Rae. I like the folks who were in the match, and you know, I'm always happy to see the ladies in there mixing it up. It's unfortunate though that we couldn't have multiple women's matches and split some of the talent up into multiple segments. Paige, I don't know what's going on with her. She continues to work a heel style despite the fact that she's supposed to be a babyface. I was very impressed with Tamina. Her work this week has been the best I've seen in years. So I hopefully she continues on that path, because for as long as she's been around, she really should be a little more advanced than she has been. But I have to say, I was very impressed with her work. Of course, Natty and Charlotte continuing their feud, which is just beautiful. Anytime those 2 get in the ring with each other, you can't go wrong. Summer Rae is probably one of the more underrated talents on the roster, male or female. Always enjoy her work. Always enjoy her work. Sasha Banks, she's the best. She really needs to be by herself. They should at least give her more mic time. I'm not necessarily saying she has to work all the time in the ring, but they need to do some more vignettes and things with Sasha to continue to show her character until they figure out something strong to do with her. I will say she does have an undefeated streak, though, and that continues to trudge on, which is great. Becky Lynch, solid talent. Can't go wrong with her. She's fantastic. Naomi, starting to come into her own with her gimmick. You know, her merchandise is selling pretty well. She's getting some strong traction on social media and what have you. And her in-ring work is it's neutral. It's not better. It's not worse. So no news is decent news in that regard. But of course, the baby faces, Natty, Sasha, Becky, and Paige, they went over on the heels. So decent match. Can't go wrong. I just wish we could have split that up into multiple segments there. Next, we have the Vaudevillains defeat the Usos to advance to the final #1 contenders tag team tournament. This is a tournament to determine who's going to face New Day at the pay-per-view. So, interesting match. The Usos have really been getting jobbed out a lot lately. I don't understand why. They are a great tag team. It may be time to turn Usos heel. I know that the younger fans love them, especially because of the colors of their merchandise and what have you, but I think the Usos need to be freshened up a little bit, because they're too good of a tag team to look weak. And we're going to have to keep them around, because they really make everyone that they're in the ring with better. So, Vaudevillains, their gimmick is not catching on yet. Probably going to need some time behind the mic just to get their gimmick over. Maybe time to put them with a manager as well, which would be interesting. Some kind of carny, step right up kind of guy, shouting, maybe a new version of a Jimmy Hart, who knows. But they need something here. They're not that far off. Their work in the ring isn't bad, but their gimmick is not getting over as well as it should. Next up, we have the high-flying, exciting Apollo Crews, who defeated Heath Slater. Slater just really did a poor job of carrying this match. I was very disappointed in him. He, unfortunately, shined the light on the limitations of Apollo Crews. And the thing about Apollo Crews, here's a guy who's pegged to be champion someday. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's on a fast track. They have him undefeated right now on the main roster. Exciting talent, a little undersized, but he makes up for it because he's a powerhouse. I would love to see more with Crews. He's going to have to be put in a feud where he's forced to sell. Because right now they're just making him unstoppable, and it really isn't helping him in any way because guys like Heath Slater are not giving as much as they should be giving in that ring. So we'll see. Yet to be determined. Keep an eye on that one. Ironically, the final match of the night was Dean Ambrose versus Kevin Owens, with Ambrose going over on Owens. At the end of the match, Chris Jericho attacked Ambrose, which was cool. Strange to end the night that way. It would have been more exciting if there could have been a Roman Reigns promo and maybe the Bullet Club beating Reigns down, ended the night. I think that would have been more impactful than Jericho beating down Ambrose. The Ambrose-Owens match was what it was. Run of the mill, not bad. These guys know each other like the back of their hands, so there's no surprises there. That was it for the night. I mean, I did a poll, and the majority of folks gave Monday Night Raw 3 stars out of 5, which I'm very surprised at. Just myself personally, I would have given it closer to 2 stars. I felt it was one of the weaker Raws, especially coming off of WrestleMania. Just not as cohesive. Didn't really go together with some of the other shows. I will say that the company is taking a chance putting on so much new talent, doing what they can to try to get these guys over, which I'm not opposed to. But they really are going to have to start utilizing some creative vignettes and promos, because right now it just seems a little flat. You have a bunch of guys whose characters are not well defined yet, and the fans, although these guys have come from NXT, it's still important to reintroduce the fans to who they are, give them a proper introduction on the main roster. Aside from that, in the rest of the world, I just got news that TNA is really in some tough shape. In fact, good old JR, the Hall of Fame broadcaster Jim Ross, he posted on his social media that he's hearing that there's some serious problems there, and TNA may be on the last leg. Which, folks, we never want to see a wrestling organization go out of business, mainly because the more organizations there are, the more opportunity talent has to work elsewhere. So it's really unfortunate that TNA has not been able to get it together. As you can see, it's very difficult to run a wrestling organization, but such is life. And that's it for now, folks. I really appreciate you checking us out. We'll be back again next week, and until then, be kind to each other, and we'll see you next time.